Now, recently we unboxed this amazing Umbrella Entertainment release of Terrifier. It's a Terrifier box set. It includes all 3 of the Terrifier films in it. Now, I did do a video on this. You can take a look at that and you can see the amazing unboxing I did of this. But today we are going to talk specifically about the first film in this collection. And this is none other than Terrifier. Just Terrifier. It's the first one. And this is a 4K UHD version of it that has HDR. But this is the first. This is probably the only way at this point I think that you can get this in 4K. It's through Umbrella Entertainment. And they did a fairly amazing job on this release. And I hadn't seen the other 2 yet. But today we're going to talk about the first one. And in this video, brace yourself. There will be spoilers. Hey, I'm Dave Watkins Films, and if you go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel. Now, I did see the film a while back. I think it was on Netflix, and I saw it, and I probably only watched maybe about 30 minutes of it. I didn't really click with me at the time, but I did watch the whole thing this time, and I'm going to talk more about it. I'm going to, like I said before, I'm going to talk about some spoilers that happen, things that happen in the film. So if you haven't seen the movie, once we get to that part, you probably want to not listen or whatnot. The film was directed by Damien Leone. Now, Damien Leone has been just directing films in this sort of universe about Art the Clown. Now, Art the Clown is the villain here on the front of this. He's kind of a serial killer. He's dressed like a clown, and we're going to talk more about him later. But previously, before this one, he directed 2 shorts which featured Art the Clown and played by a different actor in those 2 shorts. But then he took those 2 shorts and he put them together and added some more material to make an anthology film called All Hallows Eve. Not to be confused with All Hallows Evil, Lord of the Harvest. This is a film which I have a supporting part in, directed by Ron McClellan. But here, he did make, on this disc, there is a version of All Hallows Eve in 4K. It doesn't have an HDR, but as far as I can tell, I didn't watch it. I kind of put it on briefly and fast forward a little bit. It looks to be pretty good, even though clearly the budget isn't as high as it is in Terrifier, the film here, which is it's a little bit under an hour and a half. Now, most of the film takes place on Halloween night. Now, the beginning of there is a scene at the beginning that takes place on another day. The way it's presented, you don't know if this scene is in the future or if it's in the past. And that's not made clear until near the end. But as the movie's going on, I started to really suspect the truth behind that scene. So what happens in this scene, there's a girl who's horribly disfigured. Her face is all messed up. Her eyes are gone. And she's doing an interview with a reporter. And she's talking to her about a killing spree that had happened. And the killer, she thinks he disappeared from the morgue. So they don't know what happened to him. But she says that she saw him die. So after the interview, the reporter goes back and gets on the phone with her boyfriend. And she's talking smack about how ugly the girl was, and it was horrible being in front of her. So suddenly, out of nowhere, the disfigured woman jumps out and grabs the reporter, attacks her, messes her face up, gouges her eyes out, and it's pretty horrific. And that's kind of how it begins. And then it goes into the main part of the film, which is Halloween night, which it may or may not have happened later after this, which I'll tell you here in a minute what it really is. So there's 2 women named Tara and Dawn. They're young women, and they've been to a Halloween party. They're trying to get back to their car, but then they go into this pizza restaurant, and before that happens, they see that this weird clown dude, who's Art the Clown, in the corner, and he follows them in there. And I think the first time I saw the film, I really didn't like this scene. I did appreciate it more this time. I just wasn't in the mood to watch it the first time, I think, but I do have a better appreciation for it now. But it's when I was watching it on streaming, that scene seemed really brightly lit in the pizza joint. It's still fairly light, but it doesn't look as bright as it did when I saw it before. And there's a little bit more texture to the wall. And I think that in 4K, it looks a lot better. The blacks are deeper. In general, the skin tones look better, and you see more detail. But the best thing about it is it just makes it look a little less superficially lit or overly lit. But the weird thing happens. He comes in there, he sits at the table by himself, and he sits there and makes faces at the main girl, and they're just like, oh, that guy's a weirdo. And so it seems kind of weird to put this, who's a potential horror icon, they put him in this table in this restaurant, and he seems like fairly harmless in a way. And no one seems like they really see him as a threat at that point. There's two guys working at the pizza restaurant, and they eventually he gets really weird, and he actually goes into the bathroom and he gets shit all over the toilet, and the guy one of the guys at the pizza things like kicks him out. He gets pissed off at him, kicks him out the door. That's not before the Don character, who's Tara's friend, goes over and sits in Terrifier's the Art the Clown's lap and takes a selfie with him, which he doesn't really seem to like that very much, and we know later on that he really doesn't. But he generally the art character doesn't talk; he just kind of makes gestures, and he does it. The actor David Howard Thornton plays him. He was played by a different actor in the All Hallows Eve film, but David Howard Thornton here takes over the role, and he does a very good job. He's very good with the expressions. He doesn't talk. He does a lot of good mannerisms and things of that nature. So these pizza guys are like kick him out. This really, like this guy, this Art the Clown, he's really an asshole. There's like no way around this. He's just a big asshole. Like, not only is he going to kill people, but he goes in and trashes the bathroom too. It's just uncalled for. So anyway, the women leave eventually, go back to their car. And while that's happening, it comes back to the pizza joint, and the guy goes he's in the bathroom cleaning it, and he's like, this is disgusting. He walks into the other room, and his friend, or his other employee, they look kind of similar. I think maybe they're related, but he's got his head cut off, and Art the Clown's turned his head into a jack-o'-lantern, and then he comes out and he kills the other guy too, and quite gruesomely. Now, this film takes place on Halloween, but it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel very like Halloweenish to me. It has like the main characters are dressed in costumes, and we see like he turns the guy's head into a jack-o'-lantern, and that seems Halloween. But most of the film, it doesn't really scream out this is Halloween to me throughout. I mean, they don't, because of the way that most of the film either takes place is at this pizza place, and then out on the street some, and then in this abandoned a construction building. So most of it takes place in locations like that, which aren't really decked out too good for Halloween to really absorb or really appreciate the decorations for the holiday. Not to say the film doesn't work, but it doesn't, even though it is a Halloween movie, but it technically doesn't feel like one a lot of the times, even though it is a horror film. Now I got a question for you. Is this the beginning of a new slasher movie craze? Do we have is the Terrifier Art the Clown, is he a new horror movie icon on the level of, not necessarily the level, but in similarity to like Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees, or even, say, Freddy Krueger? I mean, clearly he's not going to be on the same level as them, but do we have a new horror movie icon? Now, I think we need two more. Like we got Art the Clown, and maybe we can get two other ones that could maybe be the new renaissance of horror movie icons for the mid-2020s. So the two women go back to their car, and they discover their tires have been slashed. Tara calls her sister and tells her that she needs to come. She asks her to come help her, and her sister's reluctant. Her sister's in college, and she's trying to study. But she's like, okay, fine, I'm going to come and help you. After that point, we've kind of been introduced to all of the major characters in the film. Now, there is a guy in this building. There's an abandoned building. He's a kind of a bug guy, and he's a bald dude. And Tara she needs to go to the bathroom, and so she goes and asks him if she can use the bathroom. So he brings her inside this place that he's reluctant to do. He seems a little odd, but he's mostly is a nice guy. So my mind starts going back to the beginning of the movie. This girl who's disfigured, who attacks this reporter lady, it's got to be, if that is in the past, it's got to be one of these women. It's got to be most likely either Tara or her sister. Now, the way her face is disfigured at the beginning, you can't tell exactly who it is. But so Tara, played by Jenna Kanell, she ends up like fighting Art a pretty good bit. And she turns out to be a fairly good opponent for him. And he goes back to the car while she's in there using the bathroom. He goes back to the car and kidnaps Dawn. He brings her into the construction site and hangs her upside down, completely nude. And now Tara fights him for a while, and he eventually gets her and has her tied up too. And he shows her friend who's hanging upside down. And this is a really gruesome scene. Art gets out this bow saw, like a handsaw, and he takes off Dawn's underwear, and then he saws her from the bottom down to her head, and even saws into her head. And as he's doing this, he's like, he's really excited about it, and he's like, especially when he gets into the head, he's like, wow, look at what I'm doing. His expressions are like, wow, this is amazing. Look at this. But I mean, it's really messed up that he's doing it, and it's friggin' gruesome. But I just think it doesn't necessarily make it, but it makes it like the fact that he is just so amazed at what he's doing. And meanwhile, Tara's getting out of the chair, and she's breaking loose of the chair, but he kind of notices this, but he's just having such a good time sawing her friend that he doesn't immediately like address it. By the time he does address it, she's got out of the chair and she fights him, and there's some chase scenes. She eventually overcomes him and she beats his ass, and then she's about to. But Art the Clown does not play by the rules. She beats him up and she tells him to get back up, and then instead of getting back up, he pulls out a gun and he shoots her. He pulls out a gun. Now I don't. It's a pretty like. I'm laughing about it, but it's pretty messed up. But it's funny that I think because he resorts to pulling out a gun because it's just like, okay, I'm not playing by your rules. You want me to stand up and fight you in a fair fight? No, I'm just going to shoot you. And he tries to shoot her, and it doesn't kill her, but she's got a hole in her head. She's laying there on the floor dead, and he's out of bullets. He gets real frustrated. He goes into the other room, gets more bullets, comes back in and shoots her like probably 5 times in the face, completely disfigures her face. But there's a very unexpected twist in that scene because he kills off the main character. And there's still a good like 30 or 40 minutes left in the film. So really after that, the main character becomes Tara's sister once she gets there. But she's not, he basically does the same thing to her. He chases her and all this other stuff. So there's some pretty gruesome stuff. Another thing that Art does that when he gets a really big kick out of doing what he's doing. There's a guy that's about to, he's helping to save the sister, and he calls the cops and everything, and then suddenly the Art the Clown attacks him, and he starts stomping. He stomps his face in, and his whole head like caves in. is friggin' horrific and just absolutely appalling. But then what makes the scene like, I don't even know how to describe the way it makes it seem, but I just think it's so funny that Art the Clown just he sees what he did, and he's just cracking. He's laughing under, and he just thinks it's hilarious that he kicked this guy's head in. He's like, look what I just did. That was great. So eventually, at the end, the cops do come in there, and then Art when they come in there, he's gotten Tara's sister Victoria, and he's eating her face off, and she's the one from the beginning who's disfigured, but. The cops come in, and instead of letting the cops take him, Art the Clown shoots himself. So you assume he's dead. But later on in the morgue, he comes back to life. So there's clearly a supernatural twist to Art the Clown. I haven't watched the All Hallows Eve anthology films. I assume there's probably more supernatural stuff going on with the clown character. Up until he shoots himself and comes back to life, though, it seems like maybe he is maybe human. He is apparently some kind of supernatural being, maybe a demon, but he basically is. He's here on Halloween. I think the other one takes place on Halloween too, the second one, but the third one apparently takes place on Christmas. So is this connected to these holidays? Is it connected to Halloween? And maybe Christmas is also. Because it has some pagan roots going on with Christmas too. So maybe he has to be connected to show up to these holidays, and he's there just to kill people. Maybe that's what's going on. I hadn't seen the other two yet, but I'm going to watch them maybe soon, more than likely soon. We'll see. But as far as this film, this film is pretty gross and it's pretty disturbing in a way. It reminds me. Kind of a hostile, the way the main character gets killed like fairly early in relationship to the running time of the film, and it also kind of bothers you a little bit like Hostel, just the gruesomeness to it, and just him killing these people. Especially bad when he ties up somebody and then kills her friend in front of her. That's very disturbing behavior, and it is a little hard to watch for some of those things. If you have a phobia of clowns, it's probably going to be a really tough one for you to watch. You probably may not even get through the pizza scene that's fairly brightly lit. He's got his makeup looks pretty cool. It's fairly iconic. I think that David Howard Thornton does an excellent work here in the film. And let's take a look at this release. I did show it previously unboxing, but we'll look at it again in case you haven't seen that one. We have a slip cover on the inside. We do have an insert. On the back side of this, we have down here in the bottom, we have art attacking. I think it's either Terror. I think it's Terra. In this alleyway, which is featured in the film. On the back is kind of a crude like artwork here on the back. It says "Not for the squeamish." I'd have to agree with that. All right, so let's take a quick peek at the inside. Now the insert here is the same on the back side of it. As far as it looks like it is the same. Someone pointed this out to me on YouTube, but the only difference here is it has this like this Australian rating thing down here, where on the reverse it doesn't. So you can have it either way in your set here. On the inside, there are 2 discs. There's a 4K and there is a Blu-ray of the film. So let's go ahead and rate the movie. I'm going to give this movie on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. I'm going to rate it a 3-star rating. I think there's some. I think this is a beginning of a. I do like to see a horror franchise starting. Some of it is a little gruesome for me. I think it gets even more gruesome as it goes on. So it just him. He's a nasty dude. He's an asshole, and I mean, all these guys are assholes, like Freddy and Jason. They're all kind of assholes in a way. I guess we'll see how it goes. I mean, I think it is kind of gruesome, hard to watch, kind of like the Saw films. When you see these people go through what happens to them. So, by the way, the actress who plays Tara, Jenna Kanell, I think that's how you pronounce it. I really like her screen presence here. It doesn't look like she's done a lot more since this, but unfortunately, I really think she does a good work. I think she does good work here, and she has a very nice screen presence. Anyway, I'm going to give Umbrella. I'm going to give them a 4-star on this release. On the box set, I think I gave them 4.5 because this is an amazing box set. I'm leaning towards a 5 because this is badass. Anyway, if you've seen the film, I hope you have, if not, I just spoiled the whole thing for you. If you've seen it, let me know your thoughts on it. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel. I'm Dave Watkins. Thanks for watching.